Welcome to the Movies the Damn podcast. My name is Kyle Grant, and I'm sitting here with my friend and published horror author, John Hunt. If you enjoy what you hear here today, please subscribe to our YouTube channel, check out our Facebook page, and follow us on both Instagram and Twitter at Damn Movies. Email us any questions, comments, and suggestions to moviesofthedamned@gmail.com. For further details on John's published works, please visit his blog, johnhuntfiction.wordpress.com. Today, we'll be discussing Wes Craven's 1997 film, Scream 2. The movie is set 2 years after the events of the original and again follows now college student Sydney. After the release of the movie Stab, which is based on the original events, a copycat killer begins again terrorizing Sydney. Sydney and her surviving friends then must fight for their lives as they try to figure out the identity of the new killer. In the end, it's revealed that the killers are thought to be friend Mickey, who wants to be famous, and Mrs. Loomis, the original killer's mother, who is now seeking revenge. Sydney is eventually able to survive, though, killing them both. John, opening thoughts on this movie?
I like this film. So I like the original. Well, we know I love the original Scream. And I was very, very happy when they made this one and they brought Wes Craven back to direct. So I was very, very happy with that. The cast came back. Because I like the first one. So a lot of people would have criticism about it because it's not too different from the first one. But I was always confused about that. Why would you expect a different film from the sequel?
Yeah, no, exactly. And just to echo your thoughts, I like this movie. I like this franchise.
Yeah.
So
I didn't like Scream 3. I'll tell you that. I thought that was junk.
Yeah, I guess it's just one of those things where even if it isn't as great as the original, I'm so invested in the characters that I want to keep watching.
Yeah, I watched Scream 3 once and I'd never watch it again. Scream 4 was good, actually.
Yeah.
I enjoyed that.
But as to what you just said about why do people want something different, I wholeheartedly agree with you. And I used to have this argument with my friends all the time about music, where they would say, oh, this band is junk, all their songs sound the same, it's the same thing over and over again. And then the same person would then say about someone else, if they like change the sound of their music, oh, they're selling out, they're trying to get more popular. It's like, well, which one do you want? Do you want them to be the same, or do you want them to change their sound? You know what I mean?
You want their sound to be the same, but also to evolve but not evolve to the point where
it's popular.
Or you don't know who they are anymore.
Yeah.
Right? So like it's like Pearl Jam, right? So
Yeah.
Pearl Jam 10, and they got better. They got better over the years. I don't even know. I really love Pearl Jam 10. But the music evolved, and it was different yet the same, and they grew, but they stayed with the same. So, and that's what I want. I wanted Pearl Jam 10 because I loved it, right? But I also wanted different tunes because I want something else to sing to.
No, exactly, right? But I hear what you're saying, that like I don't agree with those people who are like, no, Scream 2 sucked. It was too much like the original. Forget that. If you like the original, you should like this one.
Well, exactly. And why did you go see Scream 2? Because you enjoyed Scream 1. So what are you expecting, right? So for me, I
just
enjoyed
those naysayers out there, buddy.
Stop naysaying.
Negative Nellies.
Say yay, say.
Yeah, there we go. One thing though that I thought was interesting, and I don't remember picking up on this when it first came out, but looking back and doing some research, this sequel came out less than a year after the original.
Oh, I believe that.
Which is very interesting. That's pretty rare. Yeah. But then, so it comes out less than a year after the original, but it's set 2 years after the original takes place. So that's a little strange, eh?
Yeah, it's a little strange, but did you really, like you said, you didn't notice it the first time around, so because it didn't really matter.
You didn't notice it, but now that I'm reading back of it, I see that and I'm like, oh, wow. And then they're saying things like, this really rushed the schedule. Yeah. Obviously.
For sure.
And they said that the script was often rewritten during kind of filming, and pages were sometimes completed on the day that scene was supposed to be filmed.
I believe it.
Which is kind of wild, right?
Yeah.
But it's also wild in the fact that was happening, and it still turned out to be a good movie.
Yeah, I enjoyed this movie
because
for
generally
sure.
when you hear about that stuff with like a rush schedule and like rewrites and like doing stuff day of, it turns into a little bit of trash, right?
Yeah, it does. It can really do that because you kind of lose the product control, right? So, but sometimes when you write on the fly, the first thing you write is actually great. So sometimes it happens that way.
No, fair enough. And another thing that I thought was really interesting, because sometimes a writer, kind of a filmmaker, comes up with an amazing movie, and then because it's so good and it has so much box office success, they then create a sequel. Yeah. Whereas with this one, with Kevin Williamson.
Awesome, by the way.
Yeah, he already had plans for a sequel.
Yeah.
So it said that when he was first shopping around the original Scream, the script came with a 5-page outline for a sequel.
Oh, wow.
So he kind of already had the thoughts that he wanted to kind of turn this into a franchise.
Yeah.
And he thought that would help kind of sell the original script.
Yeah.
Because then the movie company would be like, oh, we're not just buying a movie, we're buying a franchise here.
Mhm.
So I thought that was kind of clever, actually.
Well, Kevin Williamson, I can't say enough good things about that guy. Like So look at this film. Like he just knows so much about film and horror films in general, but just all films, right? So all the dialogue that he writes in this about films is spot on. And then look at the plot itself. So in the first Scream, Billy Loomis is the killer, right? And then in the second one, because he pays homage to all these old films, right? The Friday the 13th and the Halloweens, because Loomis, right?
Yeah.
Right. So all that he has that stuff throughout his films, right? So you look at this one, it's like, okay, so Billy Loomis is the killer in the first one. His son gets killed. Billy gets killed by Sidney, and then Mom comes for revenge, right? Because it's Mom that comes after him, right? That's Friday the 13th kind of
yeah.
right? So it's like it's very
so you know what? When you look at all the shout outs he did throughout these movies, you could almost have predicted that, right? It's like, you know what? It might be the mother because that's a shout out to this movie, right?
Yeah. So I didn't. When I first watched it, I'll have to tell you, I didn't pick up on that stuff at all. I did not.
Oh no, neither did I. And having said that, like I don't even know if it was possible to predict the killers.
I don't know if it would have been, right? Because there have been a lot of tumblers that worked properly, right? So it would have had to see like. I don't think they did this at all, but you would have seen Mrs. Loomis walking towards Sydney, then seeing Sydney, and then doing a turnaround.
Because she knew that Sydney was one person who would recognize her.
Yeah, so like if they did something like that, then there might have been the potential to see something, right? Or
yeah.
You know what I mean? Or you'd be like, okay, why is she doing that? Something. But other than that, there wasn't much to it.
And then the other character was the killer, Mickey.
Mm-hmm.
He wasn't
Timothy
really
Oliphant, great guy,
but he wasn't even really in the movie that much.
No.
Right?
So it's just like he was a backstory type of guy.
Yeah, so it's just like but I didn't feel all that cheated because it was still a fun movie, right?
It's a fun, like there's a lot of fun stuff in this, and when you look back on it, we talked about this before, the rapid change of technology, right? So it's like with Cece, when Cece gets killed or whatever, she's like,
Sarah Michelle Gellar.
Yeah, awesome, right? And then
she was in Williamson's other movie.
I Know What You Did Last Summer.
That's right.
Yeah. So she gets a phone call from the friend. They're like, oh, I don't know, it could be this person or whatever. She's like, I don't care. Why don't you star 69 his ass? Do you remember that?
there are other things from the 90s, and I actually made note of that. When Sydney first gets introduced with this one, and she gets the prank caller, and she has that cool piece of technology, the call display, right?
Right, because it wasn't in the first one, right? So now it's like, oh, look, Sydney's smartened up, and she's using this amazing technology to protect herself. You're
but
like,
you know what?
Call display.
In 97, I can't remember, but I don't think a ton of people had call displays. So we were probably sitting there in the movie theater being like, oh my gosh, that exists? Oh,
in my demographic, I don't think, I didn't know anyone who had a cell phone. Right?
Yeah.
So it's like, it's just the way it was, right? So like that type of stuff, you're like, ooh, cool, right? A lot of good stuff like that. And but I like the opening scene was pretty cool, right? So you had Omar Epps and Jada Pinkett-Smith, who I think she might have been Jada Pinkett at the time.
Oh, seriously?
Yeah. So
that's Will Smith's wife right there?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah. So she's awesome. Omar Epps is awesome. He's always two great actors, right? So I was like, oh, cool. When I remember that, I was like, oh, these are really good actors. So I was really pumped for that. But remember the scene inside the theaters, like with everyone running around and popcorn flying around, everyone screaming while the movie, it's chaos. And I'm like, that's crazy. I've never seen a theater like that.
And you know what? The people who go to these opening night or preview night things and dress up, they are into the movie. They're not going to be making noise. They want to absorb every second of it.
If you do make a noise, they'll be like, shh.
Yeah.
It'll giving you the shush, right?
So two things from that opening scene.
Yeah.
First of all, the music playing for the intro to Stab.
Okay, yep.
The song from Peaky Blinders.
Yep,
Great
right.
series, by the way. So as soon as I thought, I'm like, oh my gosh, I love this song. That's so cool. And then I hate to bring this up because it's so ridiculous. Omar Epps in the bathroom puts his ear up against the stall and gets killed.
Yeah.
Did you ever see the Scary Movie parody of that?
I did. I know. I
and
know.
it's the only thing I could think of, right? When
I saw what was about to happen, I remember that one. Like it overshadows this film, right? You're like, oh my god.
And I think I remember when we were talking about Scream, I kept talking about how like whenever I see Dewey on screen, I can only think of his like character in the Scary Movie series, and it just like it almost like it doesn't ruin it for me, but it takes me out for a second. I'm like, okay, no, you gotta watch this movie. This is a good movie.
I found that part interesting though. So this person, the killers, would have had to been obviously in the theater following them around everywhere. Like they would have been hard to pick out in that theater. I find it's dark. It's you know what I mean. Like it's kind of one of those things where then have to be in the stall before Omar. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like,
and the fact that it wasn't random because remember their names meant something it connected. So they had to have been following them around and like knowing,
that's what I meant.
knowing they were going to this movie
because it wasn't random. They had to have done that, right? So I don't know if the sequence was like the person couldn't have been anticipating he was going to the washroom, right? Couldn't have been sitting in the stall that whole time. So I was just like, I thought that was a little off, but like once again, I like this movie, so I don't really care too much. I might have torn it apart on a different movie if I didn't like it that much. It would have been one of those things.
But you're able to forgive it?
For sure, yeah. And that might make me a little hypocritical in that, I guess. But I was. But
you're human, right? You like what you like, and I like this, and I liked that stab wasn't just like a quick thing in the background. I love that continually throughout the movie.
Yeah,
they kept bringing it up and then showing like reshot scenes.
Yeah,
I love the one scene where that they reshot in the hallway. And
Tori Spelling.
And is that Keanu Reeves?
No, that wasn't Keanu Reeves. That's one of the Wilson brothers, Luke Wilson.
Yeah.
Luke Wilson.
I just loved seeing the scenes reshot with the different actors, and they're purposely kind of like almost being a little douchey or over the top.
And the first girl was Heather Graham. She's awesome too.
Yeah. But I just love that they did that.
Yeah.
Because it just brought a smile to my face, right? It just I'm like, this is fun. And I know it's a lot of fun. I love movies that are fun.
Yeah.
And that's probably why I like horror comedy so much. And this isn't a horror comedy, obviously.
No.
But I like enjoying a movie as I'm going through it.
Well, you need something to break the tension. So depending on the movie, right? Because some movies don't break the tension, and that's what they were designed to do. And the whole time you're kind of like, you're on the edge of your seat. And that's like it's not a cliche. That's an actual thing. You're tense the whole time.
Yeah.
But I like. Sometimes, like in a movie like this, the levity, because it wasn't designed to be complete tension all the time, you needed the levity. And the levity is actually, once again, a great device, right? It was funny. It made you smile. And then in the next scene, you were jumping because something popped out of somewhere, right? So I think it's a great device to use. And I think it was well used in this film.
100% agree with you.
But here's some things that I noted because I didn't really, and when you first see it, like I knew most of these actors back then, but then you see more as it goes along, right? So, but here's a point. Remember they're having that discussion in film class about sequels?
Yes.
And about better ones. The best, Randy, he's so good, right? So he says, so sequels are inferior films. By definition, sequels are inferior films, right? They're in a sequel, right? So I was like, this stuff's so good, like how they throw that stuff in there. It's like it's very clever, but you're more concentrating on the actual argument, right? That they're having about Godfather 2 and Aliens and all that type of stuff. So you're more focused on that, but then you when you take a step back, you're like they're in the sequel, like
they're talking that sequels are
inferior. And then and they're talking about okay, the sequel's gonna have more blood and more gore, more kills and all that type of stuff. It's all there, like it's these devices.
It's so many cliches, right?
For sure, and it's a tie back to the first one because he had those whole rules and when he's in the party, right?
Yeah.
There's rules to survive a horror movie, right? So. I just love how this was written, man. I'm a big fan of Kevin Williamson, if you didn't know.
Yeah, no, you've said that a couple times. And yeah, it's just like full of cliches. And so obviously, fans of the show here, if you follow us on social media, you know that for every episode here, I kind of grab an old movie poster, throw it online, put our faces in there.
Yeah.
But when I was looking up the Scream 2 movie poster, the headline on the poster, twice as hip, scary, and entertaining. It's just like that's so like 1990s.
It
like,
is.
It's got to say 2 because it's Scream 2, right?
I know.
Like, oh my
that's good.
gosh.
Oh, but so remember the girls were trying to get Sydney and her friend to join the sorority.
Yes.
So the one girl in that, I was like, oh my god, I know her, Portia de Rossi. So she's Ellen
Oh,
DeGeneres.
oh, yeah.
Yeah. So and then she was also in this TV show that I actually did watch. It was only on for 1 or 2 seasons, called Better Off Ted. She was
Yes.
hilarious
Yeah,
in
I've
that.
seen that. And
I
she was-
love that show.
She's also in Arrested Development,
yes.
which I believe they're still making seasons on Netflix, I believe.
Yes, yeah. So Netflix produced ones, right? But I remember this Better Off Ted show. She was like, this show was hilarious to me. Like I died watching that show. So then I see her on there. I'm like, oh my god, that's her. It's like it's so cool. Like you see some of the stuff.
And like you had already named Timothy, I can't even say his
Oliphant.
name. Oliphant.
yeah.
Looks so young.
So young. Yeah.
And he's a great actor. He's
He's
really
a great
coming
actor.
into his own.
Justified, and he was in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
He was
like,
great in that film.
Yeah. So he's been around for a while, and he's always been good to watch.
And so it's kind of cool to see these actors grow up, but then to kind of go back and see, oh my
Mhm.
gosh, they were so young in this.
I know. Oh, he was also in Deadwood, and that was a great show.
Yeah, and he's
Right.
in a Netflix show which I love, which if you haven't seen, you got to check it out. It's with Drew Barrymore, Santa Clarita Diet.
Yeah, I have seen that.
Yeah,
I've seen
it's
some of
kinda
that.
like a
Once-
good
I'll
horror
watch a
comedy.
few episodes of a series because I'm like, okay, I want to watch this and want to see it, and then I get sidetracked with other stuff, and I
Oh,
stop
life's
watching
busy.
TV, man.
No, I hear you.
But yeah, no, I remember that one. That was a great show for sure. And any problems with this film?
Any problems with this film?
Normally we both
Yes.
note stuff, right?
Yes.
So,
Sydney is in the back of the police cruiser with her roommate or
Yep.
friend. I think they're roommates.
yeah, the roommates and good friends.
And the car gets attacked. The detectives get killed.
yeah.
The killer's driving and then they get into a car crash. Is that right? How does the killer get unconscious? It's a car crash, right?
Yes.
And then they both climb out and leave instead of either killing the killer or unmasking them.
Yes.
Ridiculous.
Yes, I would agree. That's ridiculous.
So that was my one big problem.
So my other problem is like
But you just first of all, you agree with that?
yeah, for sure.
Okay.
For sure. I didn't like that. I watched that and I watched that again and I was like, I think it was that whole scene was just so they could have that cop's head look like jelly through that pole, right? Just for one of the, kind of an interesting kill. Other than that, because it might add a little tension. Sydney climbing over the killer, or doing whatever, right?
Oh, it was tense, but I just
Yeah.
thought it was ridiculous that she didn't like try and kill it or like feel the pulse or pull the mask off or
Yep.
anything.
My question is only one of the doors was,
Yeah, they never went around and tried the other door
yeah. So
or tried the front passenger door.
yeah, right. So there's some issues with that, which once again because it's a fun film, you don't really look at it too much. I'll tell you what I had a problem with, which I thought was weird. So the killer, the cinema stuff people get killed, CC gets killed. I don't know what the sequence is exactly, but Dewey shows up on campus, right? He's at a college in America, right? So an American college. They're fairly huge, right? Even the college campuses in Canada are very, very big.
Yeah.
So what does he do? He stands in the middle of it looking around, and then Sydney sees him. Like, is that how you go to a college looking for a friend?
It's called fate, John.
I know. I'm just saying, right? You know what I mean?
I get you.
Like if I'm going to, if I had to pick up my son from college or meet a friend back in the day from college, I'd be like phone him, okay, where are you going to be?
Yeah, where am I meeting you?
Yeah, right? Like, okay, what does it look like? Right? All that type of stuff. He just drives there really quick and then just walks around the middle of the campus, looks all anxious, and then Sydney finds him. I thought that was a little weird.
Yeah, a little bit strange, right?
Yeah. Not like crucial or critical by any means, but some of that stuff kind of like just makes me go, meh. It could have been done easier, right? It could have been like, hey, with a phone call, or maybe Dewey goes to like the student offices to find out, where she is, or have her called or whatever, and then she happens to be there, like something.
Yeah, because like if Dewey was so connected to her, which he was, he would have stayed in contact with her over the last 2 years, right?
Yeah.
He probably would have called in to check in on her like weekly or every other week or every month or something like that, right?
Mm-hmm. So for sure. So there's a lot, just small stuff. I do have a question for you though. So, the running argument between the killer Mickey and Randy about sequels and whether or not they're good, right?
Yeah.
So Mickey says later on, The Godfather Part 2.
Yeah.
Right. And then Mickey says later on at the party, Empire Strikes Back. Right.
And he said it doesn't count because it's part of a trilogy, and all three were planned out already.
Yeah. So I'm not too sure, but wasn't The Godfather a trilogy?
It was a trilogy, and I guess the difference would be is that he's arguing is that like each of those Godfather films was kind of like made independently. It's like we made one and did well, now we're making a second one. Where like Star Wars, he had like written all 3 parts already. I guess that's the difference. I don't know.
I don't even know. Did George Lucas write them all at the same time?
I heard a rumor, and I'm not a huge Star Wars buff, so there's probably listeners who are ripping out their hair here. But I heard that he originally
I am a Star Wars nerd. But
I had heard he originally wrote all 9.
Really?
Yeah, and then they started with 4, 5, and 6. But again, I could be wrong on that. So for our fans out there, if you're Star Wars listeners, I apologize.
I thought you had a general idea of the prequels.
Maybe.
I thought, like, this is what I want to happen, that type of thing. I thought he had general, but well, whatever. We're talking about Scream 2 here, so that's fine. We'll get back to that. But yeah, so just some like I like that. I like how they have the continuations of certain sub dialogues throughout the film, right?
And I think we'd had this discussion in a previous podcast about your favorite sequel of all time. I think we talked about it during Alien 2.
Mm-hmm.
Is that still your favorite sequel of all time?
Yeah.
Yeah. I was trying to think of it too. I think so as well. Like it's a good film, man.
It is a great film. Great film.
A cool thing I found about this movie too is that you got to put your mind back to the late 90s, and so the internet kind of was like really taking over at that point.
Mm-hmm.
And so a big thing that happened when this film was filming is that the original script got leaked online.
Oh.
And so this resulted in the production continuing to film with only a partial script, while Williamson conducted extensive rewrites, changing much of the film's finale, the identity of the killers, and drastically altering roles of other characters.
Oh.
Because people knew who the killers were going to be.
I'd like to see that original script.
So I guess, okay, but you'll have to follow me on this. I guess in the original script that got leaked, Mrs. Loomis and Mickey weren't the killers. But they changed that for the movie, allegedly.
Mm-hmm.
Anyways, actors were not given the last pages of the new script until weeks before shooting, and the pages that revealed the killer's identity were only provided on the day the scene was shot to the actors involved.
Oh, wow.
But in 2017, Williamson came out and claimed that the leaked script was on purpose. And was a dummy draft that was crafted specifically to avoid leaked details and to kind of create a bit of a media frenzy and that type of thing. And they had actually written 3 dummy endings.
Oh, okay.
And one of the dummy endings had Dewey as the killer, which is just ridiculous, right? I'm glad they didn't go that way because that doesn't make any sense at all.
No, that wouldn't have worked at all, but it's kind of funny. That's very funny, actually.
And when they were putting this movie together, obviously, they were kicking around titles before they just went with Scream 2.
Mm-hmm.
Scream Again. Scream the sequel. And my favorite, which I wish they had gone with.
What?
Scream Louder. How
Scream 2 is the best choice, I'd say.
Imagine the series went Scream, Scream Louder, Scream Loudest, and then like Scream Again.
Or Scream Louderest.
Yeah. Oh, I like it.
Oh, that's pretty good, man. I like that stuff. I like those. I really like those little facts. They're fun.
Obviously, Rotten Tomatoes 82 for critics.
Yeah.
The audience score 57.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought that was a bit of a disparity because in the original, both the audience and critic score was 79.
Mm-hmm.
So these stats kind of lead to a bit of an interesting fact that critics like number 2 better, and audiences like number 1 better.
Oh,
which is kind of interesting. Although 79 to 82 isn't a big gap.
No, but you're also looking at the critics are harder on sequels. So sometimes when they get a sequel that they can get behind, they're kind of excited about it, right?
Okay.
So it could be something like that. I'm not too sure.
Now, what about you? Where do you stand?
Oh, I definitely like the original better.
Okay, so not even close for you.
No.
Okay.
No. Definitely original fan for sure.
This
one was really good. Don't get me wrong, but there were some other problems, and we can get into that whenever you're ready.
Yeah. Go ahead.
So for me, when the bad guy the killer kills the 2 cops.
Yeah, the scene that we talked about where Sydney and a roommate are in the back
driving,
of the cruiser.
Yeah, right? So he just punches the window.
Yeah, because he's tough.
And slashes the cop's throat. You know how hard it is to break a window with your fist? It's ridiculous. At least use a metal.
Or how hard it is even just to slash someone's throat.
Well, yeah.
Like if they're not letting you.
Yeah. Like all that stuff is like, that stuff needs to be done by surprise, right? So like Friday the 13th Part 1, when Kevin Bacon's lying on that bed and the arrowhead comes through his neck, there's no way he could have avoided that.
Yeah.
It's done, right? But this breaks through the window and then slashes her throat like that. Like, no. I don't, some of that stuff, you just need a little bit more subtle details to make it that more believable, right?
And the other thing is too, John, is that these killers, in number 2 here, they're not physically imposing people.
No.
And they were doing things that, like, making them out to be really strong, tough people.
Well, yeah, they're throwing. So that's another thing. So the killer throws Cece off the balcony, right?
Yeah.
After stabbing her in the back. So.
Or how about pulling Randy into the van?
Yes.
Yeah, you have to be strong to do something like that.
Well, when you're caught off surprise,
Yeah.
no.
Okay.
Right? So if you're ready for it, then yeah. But if you're just standing there and someone pulls you from behind, you're falling.
No, fair enough.
But I mean, so get back to the Cece one. So stabbed in the back, thrown off the balcony, Cece, right? So at this time, Mickey's at that party with Sydney. So it's not him that did it. I wouldn't think so.
Oh, yeah, because it has to be...
It has to be Mrs. Loomis.
Yes.
And then she's also first on scene. She beats Gail to the scene of the murder. And Gail's like, how'd you get here so fast? There's a big thing with that, right? Which, could have made you think something was up, but I didn't think anything was up.
On it either.
So then, so Mickey's at that party with her, and then, so it must have been Mrs. Loomis that picked up Cece and threw her off a balcony. Pretty hard to do.
Yeah.
Right? And then at that party, Sydney's boyfriend, what the hell is his name again?
I can't remember. But
Jerry O'Connell. Awesome, awesome guy. He's from Stand By Me.
I actually thought he looks a lot like Cotton.
Yes, and well, I guess. But in My Secret Identity, like, just a good actor. I liked him. He's fun to watch. So he gets slashed after going into the house after the killer, after getting chased, right? What I found interesting is in that scene when the killer's going after Sydney in the house before she gets out and before her boyfriend gets slashed, the knife that he uses chasing her has blood on it already. So
that would have been the knife that stabbed Cece.
I would think so. So then was that Mrs. Loomis in the house, or was it Mickey who was already there?
Well, it has to be Mrs. Loomis, or they would have had to have somehow passed the knife off.
Yeah, so then Loomis, that's what I'm just trying to figure out the sequence of events. So Loomis was at the party, so she was at the party. So when Cece gets thrown off, she's there, right? Because Gail's there first or whatever.
Yeah.
And then is that before the sequence at the party?
Yes.
Or is it after? Because she would
now
have left there and run over there.
You're making me second guess myself.
Yeah.
I think it was before, but I can't give you 100%.
Okay, so I'm just saying, so she would have had to left there, run over to the other party, knowing Sydney is still there because she must be talking to Mickey.
Yeah.
Right? So that's not a problem. I don't have an issue with that. But then runs over there with the scream mask and everything and the bloody knife, runs into the house, and then runs out again. And it's like, there's a lot of... So they're trying to make you think there is two people, so they could be at two places at one time, and that's fine. But because of the bloody knife, I don't think it's two different people, unless she passed off the knife to Mickey. But then when would you have done that? So
a little bit of a discrepancy there.
There's just some of that stuff. But my main complaint about any movie is evil monologue expositions.
Yeah, you hate that at the end. Yeah,
I hate that. So, and they had it in Scream, but I didn't mind it because they were in the process of, finishing off, right? So they're in the process of stabbing each other, and since they were talking to each other, and Sydney was there, and it was very important for him to know why he did for Sydney to know why he did all this. I didn't mind it too much, right? It wasn't a long monologue, right? And as far as they're concerned, they had her under a gun, so cool, whatever, right? Well, even then, I just don't like it. I don't like it long. Okay, this is why we did everything that we did, and blah blah blah. Like,
before I kill you, I'm gonna make you listen to my rant.
Before I kill you, I'm gonna let you know everything that I did, all my plans, and what I plan to do with you afterwards, and how I plan to get away with it. Like, I just don't like that stuff. I don't like it in general. Once again, it didn't take away from the fun of this movie for me. Like, I really enjoyed this movie. I had a great time. I would never say, it's a bad movie. Like I said, I really enjoyed this movie. I just don't like that stuff. I don't like it.
And I can't argue with you.
But Oh, and another thing. So when Mickey was shot by Sydney there, he with a handgun, with
Yeah.
which looked like a Glock 17 to me, which is either 9mm rounds or 40 cal.
Okay.
Right? They could be outfitted with 45. Either way, handguns do not throw someone back against a wall.
Yeah, no, I can't argue with that. I guess it's just for dramatic effect in the movie.
I know, but
Yeah,
you don't need to, right? You could I could have had is blood bags exploding in the chest, and then him.
And then he would
collapsing.
just falling
Yeah.
dramatically or something.
Yeah.
Instead of being thrown backwards, you got front thrust kicked or something.
It's even worse than that, right? It's
Yeah,
he had a grenade and it blew up in his chest and threw him away.
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
It's
yeah.
just, I don't even know. I was like, okay, that's a little much, but once again, fun movie.
Yeah,
Right.
exactly. And it was a successful movie, John.
Okay, go.
24 million budget,
Yeah.
and it made the exact same amount as the original.
Oh wow.
Made close. It made 172.4 million,
Wow.
and the original made 173. So how wild is that they were so close to each
That's
other?
amazing. Yeah.
So every single person who saw the original went and saw the second one in
well,
theater.
Well, when you make it within a year apart, they don't forget the first one. do
Yeah.
they? No, that's good.
Very cool. Well, buddy, anything else to add on this one?
No, I do not. I love the Scream franchise. It's great. Number 3 wasn't very good. Kevin Williamson's great, and that's about it.
And again, for those of you who love forcing John to watch a movie he doesn't enjoy, if you want us to do Scream 3, let us know. And please subscribe to our YouTube channel. Check out our Facebook page and follow us on both Twitter and Instagram @DamnMovies. We want to hear what you thought of today's podcast and any suggestions you have, especially in terms of what movies you would like us to discuss next. Send us an email to moviesofthedamned@gmail.com. Please also check out John's full-length novels. His first 2 novels, Dollhouse and The Tracker, are Amazon bestsellers. You can also order his novella Balance, his book of short stories, 4 Shots of Horror, and his newest novel, Off the Grid, on Amazon right now. For further details on John's other published works, please visit his blog, johnhuntfiction.wordpress.com. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time.
Yeah, everyone. Thanks again for listening, and I'm very happy with my work. It's been getting really good reviews, so if you would check it out, that'd be great. And if you want to ask any questions about my work or us on the podcast, just reach out to us. We're always here. We're available to you, and we'd love to hear from you. So, that being said, have a great week.